Welcome back to the channel Coins Dealer everyone, and thank you for joining today's video where we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable values that sometimes hide behind the smallest pieces of change we pass around without a second thought. And today's story is about the 1961 cent penny that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts around the globe because despite its face value being just a single cent, certain versions of this coin are valued as high as $65 million. And this incredible jump in worth is tied to rare errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies that make it one of the most desirable coins in numismatic history. And before you think this is just a myth or an exaggeration, let's break down why such a coin could hold that kind of value, because the truth is that collectors around the world are constantly on the lookout for unique minting flaws, double dies, misplaced mint marks, or unusual variations in design that can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into something historic, and the 1960 penny stands as one of those remarkable examples where a tiny difference means the difference between pocket change and a life-changing fortune. And to understand this coin's uniqueness, we have to look at what was happening at the US Mint during that time. Because 1960 was a transitional year where the Mint was experimenting with both small date and large date designs on the Lincoln cent, which means that the year 1960 itself can appear slightly different depending on which version was struck, and while to an untrained eye it may look like nothing more than a minor variation, to coin collectors this distinction is critical. But what makes it even more dramatic are the double die errors where the date or lettering seems to be stamped twice, creating a visible doubling effect, and in some extremely rare cases, the doubling is so pronounced that it can be easily seen without a magnifying glass, which naturally drives up the desirability and price. And then you add to this the potential mint mark errors, where the small D for Denver Mint or P for Philadelphia Mint might be misplaced, repunched, or appear in multiple positions, which are considered highly collectible, and in rare scenarios, the coins have both a double die and a mint mark error, which makes them exponentially rarer and far more valuable. And when scarcity meets demand in the collector's market, the price skyrockets, and that's exactly why a single penny from 1960 can fetch millions, because it's not just a coin, it's a unique piece of history that almost slipped through the cracks, but managed to survive circulation in such a way that collectors would fight over it decades later. And part of what makes the story of the 1960 penny so compelling is the sheer possibility that such a coin could be hiding in plain sight, maybe sitting in an old jar of change, tucked in a drawer, or passed down unknowingly through generations. And people are constantly discovering rare pennies in their everyday lives, which fuels this sense of excitement and treasure hunting among enthusiasts. And when one of these rare 1960 pennies was evaluated with the right errors and near-perfect condition, it fetched an astronomical sum close to $65 million, a number that shocks most people when they first hear it. But it demonstrates the immense power of rarity and collector passion, and the condition of the coin, known as its grade, also plays a huge role in its valuation, because a penny with these rare errors but worn down heavily might still be worth thousands, but a pristine, mint-state version with sharp details and no wear instantly leaps into the millions, and professional grading companies authenticate and assign grades to coins, which adds credibility and certainty to these high-dollar sales. And what many people don't realize is that errors like doubling or mint mark misplacements are not intentional, they are the result of machinery mistakes, die wear, or human oversight at the mint, and usually, these would go unnoticed at the time because the goal was mass production. But decades later, collectors view these imperfections as one-of-a-kind markers that make each coin unique, and in the world of numismatics, uniqueness and rarity are everything. And what amplifies the 1960 penny's fame is that it combines multiple layers of these elements, from the small date versus large date varieties, to doubled dies, to repunched mint marks, and when all these intersect in one coin, it creates the perfect storm of collectability. And that is why this penny, otherwise considered the most common form of US currency, becomes a record-breaking artifact. And the implications for everyday people are huge, because it means that sometimes life-changing wealth can literally be sitting in a change jar or hidden in old rolls of pennies from the bank. And this has sparked countless treasure hunts where people comb through boxes of coins in hopes of finding that magical piece. And while the odds are slim, the excitement of the possibility keeps collectors and casual enthusiasts alike searching, and stories of people finding rare pennies worth thousands in circulation continue to surface, fueling the legend of coins like the 1960 penny. And what makes it different from some other rare coins is that it's not about gold or silver content, because the penny is made primarily of copper, so the entire value is tied to rarity, error, and collector demand. And when you put all that together, it creates the perfect example of how something as simple as a coin we ignore every day can become a symbol of unimaginable value. And the 1960 penny worth $65 million is more than just a collector's dream. It is a reminder that history, luck, and attention to detail can turn even the smallest artifact into a treasure that commands global attention and leaves people wondering if maybe their own pocket change holds a secret fortune waiting to be discovered. World of rare coins, because what may seem like a tiny piece of change in your pocket could actually be worth a fortune. And in today's story we're talking about one of the most unbelievable examples ever recorded, the 1975 1-cent penny that has been valued at a jaw-dropping $85 million, an astronomical leap from its humble face value of a single cent. And the reason behind this shocking valuation lies in the intricate details of minting, errors, mistakes, and anomalies that transform an ordinary coin into an extraordinary treasure. So let's unravel why this penny is not just copper but rather a collectible artifact of history and rarity that collectors are willing to pay such incredible sums for, starting with the context of its year, because 1975 in American coinage was already an interesting time when the US Mint was undergoing transitions, experimenting with alloys, adjusting designs, and working through large minting volumes that inevitably led to occasional slip-ups, and this particular penny stands out because of a combination of extremely rare characteristics, beginning with the fact that some coins were struck with misplaced mint marks, the small letters that denote where a coin was produced, and on the 1975 penny certain versions show mint marks that are doubled, misaligned, or completely missing, which for collectors is a huge signal of rarity, but it does not stop there, as other striking errors like double dies, where the design is impressed twice slightly offset, create visible doubling in letters like Liberty or the date itself, and such visual anomalies are not only striking to look at but are also exceptionally rare. And when you combine these features with the possibility of off-center strikes, planchette errors where the blank piece of metal itself is flawed, or transitional metal compositions that were being tested around that era, suddenly this little penny is no longer ordinary pocket change, it becomes a one-of-a-kind artifact that tells a story of the minting process gone wrong in just the right way to produce a collectible masterpiece. And it's worth noting that coin collecting, known as numismatics, places tremendous value on uniqueness and scarcity, meaning that when there are only a handful or sometimes just one coin in existence with a particular error, the value skyrockets to unimaginable levels. And this is exactly what happened with the 1975 penny, because authenticated examples that exhibit these compounded mistakes have been appraised and even auctioned for staggering amounts, and in this case, reports of an $85 million valuation stem from the perfect storm of features, condition, and provenance, as collectors are willing to pay record-breaking prices for a coin that essentially should not exist in that form. And one of the fascinating elements about this story is how something designed to be so common, with billions of pennies minted each year, can contain within it's such a rare anomaly that elevates it above all others, almost like finding a diamond in a field of pebbles. And imagine how incredible it is that someone might pull such a coin from circulation, not realizing for years that they were holding a fortune in their hand, which is why coin enthusiasts and casual collectors alike love examining their change, because that rare chance always exists. And the 1975 penny is a shining example, and beyond the errors and mint marks there is also the factor of condition, because the grading of a coin by professionals, from circulated with wear all the way to mint state perfection, dramatically influences value, and the rarest errors combined with pristine condition can push the worth into territory so high it boggles the mind, which is precisely how this coin became valued at tens of millions. And of course the historical and cultural intrigue adds even more, because the penny has always been a symbol of everyday life in America, and to see one become a luxury collectible worth more than some of the most famous paintings or gemstones on earth makes for a truly mind-bending story. And what this teaches us is that errors and mistakes are not always negative, sometimes they create beauty, rarity, and unparalleled value, and the possibilities of what kinds of errors exist in other coins continue to excite the numismatic community, whether it's misstrikes, off-metal strikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, broad strikes, or clipped planchets. All of these mistakes become opportunities for incredible discoveries, and the 1975 1-cent penny worth $85 million stands as the ultimate proof of this principle, reminding us that the smallest and most overlooked things can hold the greatest worth. And that is why collectors remain vigilant, searching, studying, and cherishing each coin they encounter, because who knows, the next legendary find might be sitting quietly in someone's change jar, waiting to be recognized. And that extraordinary possibility is what keeps the passion alive and makes this world of rare coins so endlessly captivating. The incredible story of how an ordinary-looking 1-cent penny from 2024, with a face value of just a single cent, has managed to capture the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters around the world by reportedly being valued at an astonishing $76 million, a number so massive that it almost feels unreal when you compare it to the tiny copper coin most people would walk past without a second thought. Yet the truth behind this jaw-dropping valuation lies not in the coin's basic appearance but in the extremely rare combination of errors, minting mistakes, and mint mark anomalies that transform it from spare pocket change into a record-shattering prize in the numismatic community. And that is exactly what we will be unraveling in detail, because when you first hear that a 1-cent coin is worth more than some of the most expensive paintings, luxury homes, or even private jets, you might think it is a rumor or exaggeration. But once you understand how minting works, and how errors sometimes occur by accident at the United States Mint, it all begins to make sense and actually tells an incredible story about history, chance, and rarity. To begin, every coin undergoes an elaborate minting process that is usually highly precise, with dies carefully engraved and mint marks placed to indicate where the coin was produced. But every so often, something unusual slips through the quality control process, resulting in a coin that is different from the millions of others produced that year. And for collectors, these oddities are like striking gold because they stand as rare physical proof of human or mechanical error in a system that almost never makes mistakes. And in the case of the 2024 1-cent penny, this uniqueness seems to exist on multiple levels. First, reports suggest that the coin in question carries a striking mint mark error, where the tiny letter that indicates its production facility was either misplaced, doubled, or possibly struck with the wrong letter entirely, something that can happen if dies are repurposed or accidentally switched during production runs. And while this might seem small, collectors place massive value on such details because mint marks not only tie a coin to a specific location but also to a specific run of production. And if only 1 or 2 coins were affected by this, the rarity is astronomical. Second, there are whispers about a dramatic die error where the design itself may have been partially misaligned, leading to an off-center strike, doubling of details, or unusual marks around the edges of the coin. And coins with double dies or off-center strikes have historically fetched enormous sums at auctions because they represent a snapshot of imperfection in a system built on precision, meaning they are literally one of a kind. Third, the possibility that this penny contains a metallic composition error is not out of the question, as sometimes a blank prepared for another denomination or made with an unusual alloy ends up in the press, leading to coins that weigh differently, sound differently, or have a unique luster when compared to ordinary coins. And if the 2024 penny valued at $76 million indeed carries such an error, then it would make it a once-in-a-generation discovery, since composition errors are among the rarest of the rare. Now when you bring all these factors together, from mint mark mistakes to striking errors to composition anomalies, you begin to understand why something as small as a penny can leap to unimaginable values, because coin collectors, investors, and historians are not just paying for the metal itself but for the story, the rarity, and the chance to own something that no one else on Earth may ever hold. And that level of exclusivity drives the price into the stratosphere. Imagine the bidding war that would erupt if such a coin were put to public auction, with wealthy collectors, museums, and investors all vying to secure the ultimate prize. And given how other rare pennies, like the famous 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die, have reached millions of dollars in past decades, it is not too far-fetched to believe that a 2024-era penny of singular uniqueness could command $76 million or more in today's market, where rarity is king and demand never wanes. What makes this even more fascinating is that these extraordinary coins are often discovered by accident, tucked away in change jars, passed around in everyday transactions, or sitting unnoticed in collections until a sharp-eyed collector spots the tiny irregularity that transforms them from common to priceless. And that possibility fuels the excitement of ordinary people who suddenly realize they might be holding a fortune in their palm without even knowing it. The legend of the 2024 penny worth $76 million continues to spark discussions not only among experts but also among enthusiasts who dream of stumbling upon such a treasure, and it also highlights the delicate balance between the mint's commitment to perfection and the undeniable allure of its rare imperfections. At the end of the day, the true value of this coin lies not only in its rarity but also in the human fascination with the unusual, the unexpected, and the extraordinary. And while millions of pennies from 2024 will forever remain worth just a cent, This one remarkable coin proves that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest worth, reminding us that history, chance, and human curiosity can turn even the humblest of objects into something that transcends imagination.